Hello and welcome to the Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 62, no longer allowing people's low vibrations to affect you. I probably could do a few episodes on this conversation because there is so much involved with it. And it really begins with you. It really begins with how you feel about yourself and how well you have done aligning with your foundation of peace and joy and love. When we have wounds, when we have healing that needs to be done, every single person in our life will reflect that. So it all begins with you. It's all that internal job that I talk about all the time. That is at the crux is meditation, to have that meditation practice and then to journal and to really get in touch with your emotional field to find out, do I have things? Are my emotions calling me to heal something? Are they a window into something that is being triggered and something that really needs my attention? So when it comes to vibrational mood, I'm just going to go over. I was listening to my episode 3, which was such a great episode. I'm actually redoing a lot of my show notes and my titles. I'm working with a podcast promoter, and he's helping me with SEO. So I'm changing a lot of the titles. So I'm going back and I'm listening to the show, and I'm just going to revisit a little bit of what I talked about in that episode, alignment and relationships. That is a great one to listen to with this one because it's going to bring you back to the basic conversation of alignment and relationships. So your mood, your state, your feelings, and your vibration, like that vibrational foundation, the signal that you are sending out in the world is based on how you feel. So when you wake up in the morning, that's the first moment that you have to decide, how am I going to feel? Are you going to pick up on the worries of yesterday? Were you up in the middle of the night with anxiety? Are you leaving the problems of yesterday? Or are you picking right back up on the things that were not going right yesterday? Are you dreading the day? Because if you're dreading the day, you're sending out a signal of resistance to the day that you're about to create. So that frequency, that mood is really a number one in creating relationships. Now, a very strong foundation begins with having a solid routine in the morning, meditation practice, an exercise routine. The reason why I say exercise, and I always say this because of the hormone downloads that we get, the chemicals that are released in our body through moving our body, not to mention optimal health, optimal confidence, feeling good about yourself, being in a body that feels really good, being able to move, having energy, that energetic output, that life force that we call upon when we have some sort of exercise routine, whether it be walking, running, the gym. I love the gym atmosphere because you're in a group of people and the energy is contagious. So having that routine in the morning, a gratitude practice, the first moment I open my eyes, I am in gratitude because I want to set the foundation for the day. Thank you for a wonderful night's sleep. Thank you for my wonderful husband laying beside me. Thank you for my workout. All of those things tune me into a frequency that is of the highest nature. Appreciation and love are your highest vibrations that you can get into, and they will often help you to reset. If you just start thinking and start conducting from what is going right in my life, you're going to start sending out that signal. And remember, we have momentum, so it may take a little time for that to shift, for the physical evidence of that to shift, but it doesn't take very long at all. In fact, if you introduce a meditation practice into your life and you've never had one before, it's 3 or 4 days where you start to notice a feeling of calm, a feeling of peace, and then your outside world starts to reflect that to you. So your foundation is a number one, uber important when it comes to relationships and not allowing other people's vibrational frequency to tune yours. So this is taking your power back on all fronts. One thing that I've noticed in relationships, if you are looking to other people, if you are still living in a semi-victim mode where you are believing that people are doing things to you and that you have no control, then it's time to shift that. It's time to think about this a little bit differently because you ultimately are the controller over the way that you think, the perceptions that you make, the stories that you hold, and the judgments that you make. So oftentimes things happen in our experience and we create a story around it based on either the wounds that we've had before, the past that we've experienced with this person, or, you know, assumptions. We make assumptions based on the wounds that we're carrying or the past, the past energies, those past habitual programmings that we have going on in that monkey mind. That's why meditation is important, to separate so you can have control over what thoughts you're going to choose and what feelings you're going to evoke. Your relationships are a wonderful indicator of what you are aligned with. So you can be going along your day, feeling good, being in an okay mood. I'm going to say, I'm not going to say like super joyful, but like if you're just in an okay mood, you feel okay, and someone says something or someone does something that evokes a triggered emotion in you, and you get, you start to respond in, just all of a sudden you just, flip out. All of a sudden you're just in rage. All of a sudden you're just in a bad mood. And the first thought you have is, that person did that to me. You're still in victimhood. And that is a powerless position that will never allow you to take the reins of your own life. If you can back up, if you can create some space between you and this other person, let's first take people that are close to you, and then I'm going to take like strangers in the experience. So people that are super close to you, people that live in your home, people that you work with, bosses, things like that. Those people you have a certain momentum with, you have a certain expectation about, you have a certain energetic conduction that you have already set the stage for. So whatever's happened in the past is still creating in this present day. So because of that, we're not really creating from the most powerful position. We have made judgments about people, we have made assumptions about them, and we've made perceptions based on what they have shown us and what we have tuned into. I want you to really hear that. Whatever radio station we have dialed into with them is what will come across and be broadcasted to us. So if you have a belief about your child that they are terrible, that they are stupid, that they are lazy, all of those things are going to conduct in your environment. If you have a belief about your child that they are doing bad things, that they are wrong, that they have mental illness, that they have ADHD, all of those things are labels that our society have put upon people that they don't necessarily understand. Drives me kind of crazy because we just want to label everything so we know how to deal with it. But the truth is, if we just used energy instead, and we just used our ability to tune into frequencies with people, we would create totally different relationships. And we would no longer be in this power struggle and a bunch of resistance around our closest relationships, because we are constantly looking at what we don't want to see. We are constantly looking at the problem, which means we are constantly tuned into the problem and we can't attract something else from that person. This stuff, you guys, is freaking magic. I have worked it so much in my life experience. I have seen so much of the cleaning up game when it comes to my own relationships with friendships and daughters. Good Lord, I've got 4 daughters. So there's always, there's always a teaching game there. There's always a learning game there. And whenever I find myself in a low vibration with one of my children, I know it's time for me to go back and see what I'm tuning into. It's time for me to go back and heal whatever wound they're triggering within me. It's always our responsibility, because we can't control people. We can't control people. That's the thing. All right, let me see where I am in my notes, because I am just flying off the handle here today. All right, so our biggest issue is we're looking for others to fill us up. We're looking to others to make us feel loved. We're looking to others to fulfill expectations that they may not necessarily want to fulfill. We have this idea in our mind from growing up that if our children or our spouses do certain things, then we're happy. If everybody just does what they say, what we want them to do, we'll be happy. And the truth is, that's never going to work because everyone has their own agenda. Everyone has their own set of preferences in this world and their own abilities to give you love based on what you believe you should receive. Whew, yeah, expectations is something I'm going to dive a little deeper into expectations later, but expectations are huge in the creating game of whether you experience misery in your life or you let people off the hook. All right. So if you're looking to others to fill you up, then you're always going to come up short. And this is why people are not put on this planet to please you. Your children, your spouse, they're not put here to grant your every wish. They're not put here to make sure that your happiness is at the number one all the time. They're not. They're here for their own experience. They're here for their own expansion and growth. And oftentimes, especially with our kids, that means that they may not necessarily do what we want them to do or what we think is right for them. But we don't know because we're not them. And that's how it works in every single relationship. We don't know people's wounds. We don't know what their triggers are. We don't know what's going on in their internal game. So, because of that, we only have half the story. And the assumptions that we make actually create more vibrational connection to the things that we don't want. There's also a huge piece of this um, of tuning into what you are expecting from them, what you have expected, what you have created from them in the past, and what bringing that past energy into right here, right now. So, how you feel about them is what you allow yourself to tune into. I just said that. This determines what comes next. So, it's not necessarily what comes at you, it's how you respond. So, the way that you know that something is truly about you is by your response. So if if you come, this is for like strangers. Let's say, you're going through your day and all of a sudden this is, Facebook included, the stores, whatever is happening in your life experience. When you come up against people and they're super cranky or they're super agitated or they're frustrated or they yell at you, and it's so interesting to watch this, especially with strangers, like road rage. When you see people going off against other people that they don't know what's going on with them. They don't have, they're just making this judgment that this person is doing this to make me mad. It's crazy how much power we will give away to something like that. So that's what tells you where you are vibrationally. If you're freaking out in traffic, if you're, cutting people off or people are cutting you off and you're getting pissed off, you know that your alignment with well-being, your alignment with joy, your alignment with peace and love is not where it needs to be if you want to create something different. It's always about your environment. But second piece to that is it's always about the way you feel about that environment that is actually your point of attraction. So like you see this all the time, like one person can do something and it makes another person go crazy and they can do it to another person and it doesn't bother them. A lot of things don't bother me anymore because of this one reason. And this is the 4 agreements. There's a couple of them in there that are so good. I do not take things personally. Every once in a while, I'll fall into that, or I don't make assumptions. I catch myself. I'm not like not making assumptions because that's such a tendency. But when I make assumptions, I catch myself and I go, that's just an assumption. I'm just assuming that this person is saying this because of this. And it's not actually true because I didn't actually ask the person if that's what their intention was or if that's the way they were truly feeling about me. It's always about them unless it evokes an emotion in you. So if you just say, I'm not taking that personally, you free yourself up. So my husband recently was working for a client, an older couple, and he was really taking care of them and he was really going above and beyond. And something happened. I don't know the exact details, but this woman got really upset with my husband. She started yelling at him, and she basically said that she couldn't trust him, that he wasn't trustworthy, and she felt like he was taking advantage of them. And my husband like did not take that. He did not take, he said, "How dare you say that to me?" And I don't believe he really got upset. I believe he was in his power and he was taking his power back from someone. And in the past, he would have just shut down and he would have let the person abuse him because they owed him a lot of money. But instead, he said, "How dare you? I have done nothing but go above and beyond for you. And I have done nothing but been in full integrity through this whole job." She ended up apologizing to him afterwards. And this is what he said to me after this experience and some other things that had happened recently to him. "I'm not taking any of this personally. This doesn't even have to do with me. This is about a wound that this woman is carrying from either other contractors or other people who have taken advantage of her. And I don't have to play into it. I don't have to let it trigger a wound in me because I know who I am." And when you know who you are and you've worked on your stuff, you are a lot less likely to let other people train your vibration. So this is what it means when you let people train your vibration. Somebody comes at you, somebody's in a bad mood, somebody is pissy, right? And they start going off, complaining, yelling at you, whatever, and you automatically respond in the same vibration. So basically, you drop your vibration to theirs, you tune into the same radio station, and then everybody's bickering. And guess what? No solutions ever come from that energy. We always say in our house, it's not a teaching moment because everybody's just in their own crap. Everybody's in the vibration of the problem, and there's no getting out. One thing else that I've really noticed in relationships, and this is something that I've really noticed with my granddaughter. So, my granddaughter is 4, and she's an intense child. Like, she feels her emotions at a very deep level, very much like her mother. And I struggled raising her mom for without a doubt because I didn't understand the components of a healthy emotional field or what it means when someone is ultra sensitive. These are ultra sensitive, like they're super sensitive to tags and clothes, super sensitive to seams and socks. And I used to think she's doing this to piss me off, right? She's doing this to control me. She's doing this to make us late. So through the course of time and learning and growing and expanding in my own being and healing, I've realized the value of our emotional field across the board. However, I have social programmings that run deep. And those social programmings we all have from growing up in families where we were told not to cry, where we were told to go to our rooms when we got mad, when we got punished for being angry, when we got punished for any negative emotion that came through us. So when my granddaughter gets upset, I am first of all, very careful not to exchange energy with her, which means I won't get into her energetic field of being mean to her. I won't do it. I've way too much parenting under my belt to do that. 30 years, almost 30 years of parenting girls. Yeah, high emotional fields. I no longer do that and exchange energy unless I'm having a triggered response. With her, it's different. There's an unconditional love that goes beyond in grandparenting that I really can't explain unless you are one. It's fantastic. I call it the best thing ever. So when she gets super emotional, it's challenging for us because of this. We aren't used to it anymore. We don't have little ones in our experience, and we don't have, I don't even want to go on a resort where there's kids anymore. Like, that's where I'm at in my life. I need people who are in control of their emotional field. So when she starts to act up, it is very easy for me to be like, okay, stop, right? Instead of being like, What's the matter? So, this is a really good way to help people, to assist people when they are in a bad mood or they're giving you something that's frustration or, less than optimal assistance. Let's say, like, you're at a store or you're at DMV or you're at, yesterday I was at AAA. I was at AAA yesterday. I had to redo my registration. It was like a mix up with my car insurance. So I had to go to AAA yesterday and I sat down with this man who was wearing a mask. He's behind plexiglass. He's wearing a mask. And which to me, masks, whatever, if you feel more comfortable in a mask, it's totally fine with me. You do you, I'll do me. But masks to me disconnect me from people. I have a hard time connecting with people when I can't see their face. So that's been something that's been challenging that I've had to work through. So, I get very jokey with people, especially in situations like AAA or DMV, where you're just like, it's like a minutia of life and I just want to have fun. So I joked with him a little bit and I noted that he wasn't receiving what I was kind of laying down. So I just kind of like took a step back and I took a deep breath and I just said, okay, this is just going to be what it is. And then I said something else that was funny and I ended up like loosening him up. Like I could feel his vibration loosening, but I didn't get low. Like I just kind of like backed up and I didn't drop my vibration and become boring, I guess you'll call it. I just decided, okay, I'm just going to be myself. I'm just going to give it a little bit of space and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to be myself. And he ended up like really thanking me and just being very kind. And so giving people that little bit of grace, that little bit of social grace, and that little bit of space that they may need to rise up to your vibration instead of making a decision that they suck or they're lame or they don't have a personality or that mask thing is taking away your personality. Instead of making all those judgments, which are very easy to make, give it some space, take a deep breath. Don't let this monkey mind go crazy on you and create all these scenarios and all this energy, because remember, your thoughts and your beliefs are like a giant signal that you're sending out, right? You're like that light board. You're just lighting up with whatever's going on inside yourself. So we have the ability to raise other people's vibrations if we don't allow them to bring ours down. I just tuned into a radio station of who I am, and that worked really well. So when it comes to negative emotion with your children, with your spouse, with people that you're meeting in your day, your boss, I like to let people off the hook and I like to address the fact that everyone is going through stuff, that everyone has stresses, everyone gets caught up here. I call it business mode and I can see this in people I definitely see it in my husband. Like when I used to work with him on the job sites, I used to be like their cleanup girl and business mode, he's not my boyfriend when he's in business mode. Like he's not flirtatious, you know he's not super attentive to me, he's structured, he's got an agenda, he's working forward. We all know this business mode, and oftentimes when we're meeting people in their day, that's where they're at. They're up here, they're living in their mind, they're thinking about the next thing, and they're not really being present with you or having an experience with you that is of a high vibrational quality. So that's important to remember. Recently, I have a friend who got into a situation with her boyfriend's mother, and her boyfriend's mother was blaming her. Well, she wasn't blaming her. That was the assumption that was made. She sent a text to her son and his brother and my friend, and telling them, about things in the house that weren't right. And this friend made an assumption that it was all about her. And I was like, well, she did include other people that live in the house on the text message. And this woman has been through a really rough divorce. And, things in her life right now are not, I don't know the whole story, but from what I know, I could imagine that she's living in a lot of pain and she's got some wounds and some trauma that has been brought up. So I just said, give her the benefit of the doubt. Like love and compassion go so far. They go so far. And when we don't look at people and say, you're being mean to me and you're acting like a jerk to me, this doesn't mean that we excuse abuse. It does not mean that. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. What it means is we give people the benefit of the doubt. And if we don't take their stuff personally, if we've done our healing job and we don't need to take their stuff personally, if we are taking their stuff personally and it's triggering something, it's a call to heal. So thank you very much, because I don't want to be walking around with this wound that is available to, it's like a big button out there that's available to everybody to all of a sudden trigger me when I'm not expecting it. I would rather go in and do the healing work. So I just, said to my friend, it's time for you to go in and see what this means for you, because you don't have to take it personally. This woman is in pain and she's going through her stuff, and compassion and love would really be a good forefront rather than being on the defense, rather than saying she's a jerk, rather than taking this, resistance and defense. What if you just settled a little bit, worked on your stuff, right? Go within, journal about what this means for you, and then come back to the relationship and start focusing on what you like about this woman. There's always something to be liked about someone. I don't care who it is. If you can tune into the smallest thing that you like about them, what you'll do is you'll start tuning the dial and you'll create a different experience with them because you're in a different station. So anyone that you're having issues with, anyone that is kind of being that tormentor in your life, which, by the way, the root word of tormentor is mentor. And I truly believe this, that they're there to evoke healing within you. They're there to help you kind of get in touch with what needs to be healed. Or, it's totally about them. And if it's totally about them, really take on the foundation of, I don't have to take this personally. This isn't about me. This doesn't have to be about me. When you have enough space between your stimulus and your response, when you have enough space, you get to decide what things mean. You get to decide what stories you will wrap around something. What if we wrapped a story around this person that they were in pain, they needed to feel some sort of control in their life, and that we are the ones who are able to do what they need us to do, back off from whatever's causing their misery, and no longer trigger the response. We don't need to be a part of that. Once we decide that, you'll create something very different. All right. So, what is it in you that I'm seeing that's bringing me a triggered response? What is it in you that is causing me to feel negative emotion? What am I tuning into with you? And then what part of that has to do with me? Those are the questions that you want to ask when you're journaling. So I want to get into expectation. All right, first of all, let me back up a second. The story and energy you feel before you see someone is already beaming a signal. So if you have, these, let's go through expectation this way. So the expectation that you have about people is always connected to the past, what you've experienced with them in the past, what you've created with them in the past, and then what the signal that you're beaming out towards them. Every single thing you do, every word you say, every feeling you have, every thought, every belief, all of it conducts. It all sends out a wave, and they feel it. Whether they feel it consciously or not, whether you know that you're doing it consciously or not, they feel the energy that you are promoting. So if you're talking crap behind somebody's back, they know it. Deep down, they know it because energy is being conducted. So when you're about to see somebody, and maybe it's somebody that you've had a past with that's been sorted and challenging, just know whatever you're bringing with you to the table is what's going to create. If you want to change that, you have to decide. You have to decide, you know what? I'm not going to dread this holiday. I'm not going to dread this visit with this person. I'm not going to dread this phone call with them. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe we could talk about things that are going well, and tune yourself into that vibration with them before you speak to them. So that belief about people tunes you into the radio station about them. All right. So when it comes to expectation, I had a couple of questions on expectations, and I want to bring it into this episode because I think it's important. Often what we expect from people is what we give. So we think everyone has the capacity to love and give and think about other people the way we do. Okay. So if you're one of those people, if you're a giver and you're always maybe over giving and you're always doing extra for people, I would look at that first of all and ask, like, what is my intention behind that? Am I just giving to give, or am I giving to get? Am I giving from lack of love to try to get love, or am I just giving from the love that's overflowing in my heart? The expectation that people will do what we will do is always going to cause failure. It's always going to cause disappointment because they are not us. And they don't have the same capacity to love us, especially if we've got wounds, especially if we're looking to them to fill us up. So a while ago, a few years ago, I had some, expectations with kids are so incredibly easy because we think our kids should behave a certain way, and we think we've taught them a certain way, and we need them to be a certain way, right? To make sure we feel like we're doing a good job parenting. So, and we want to feel like our kids love us because our kids are probably like the one, that one person that we just over love. If you're, especially moms, dads, anyone, we just, we give so much to them. And so because of that, there can often be imbalances, especially if you're overcompensating for a childhood that you did not have. There can be imbalances where there's, of course, for like so long, you're giving so much and you're only getting a little bit back, especially when they're young. You're like taking care of them and they can't really give back to you. Maybe a smile here and there, maybe a laugh, maybe a hug, maybe an I love you, mom. As they get older, we start to create expectations around them that they should know better, that they should be adults, that I taught them well enough, that they, have a moral code, that they've got, that they value their mom and dad, that they really appreciate everything we've done for them. And if you're dealing with adolescents and teenagers, you are going to come up short on this one across the board, unless you have like a real deep spiritual teenager. You're going to see a lot of imbalance. There's going to be a lot of giving, a lot of taking, and not so much receiving on your end. As they get older, it definitely starts to balance out a little bit. But I always feel like, the relationship is always, it's always about our love and support, and loving and supporting them. So the holidays and things like that, there would be an expectation of my kids being here or us all being together. And that was causing a ton of misery in my life. The expectation of Mother's Day. Can we talk about Mother's Day? Oh my goodness. I have had some of the worst Mother's Days where I have been so pissed off at everybody that I would like go to bed at 8 o'clock because nobody showed up for me. Nobody gave me a card. Nobody did anything at all. And the truth is, like, I used to say all the time, and it clicked at some point, but I really think it had to do with my own healing. I would say all the time, I just want to feel special. Well, if you're looking to other people to make you feel special, you're probably going to come up short. So I had to do that internal work. I had to find my healing and become whole and feel loved before I had one of the best Mother's Days ever. And I was not with all of my children. I was with my youngest, my third, and our sweet cousin who moved here, who was like our long lost son, the son we never had, and my husband. And when I say like woke up in the morning, my husband made me breakfast, there was flowers. My daughter made me jewelry, like just the things that I felt just reflected how I feel inside. I didn't get presents from three of my kids. And guess what? I didn't care. I didn't care. Like, when you get to the point of your wholeness and healing, and I am not perfect, I will totally always confess to that. When you get to the point where you don't need anything from anyone, you don't need people to show you that you're loved, that show you that that you are love, you let everyone off the hook, including yourself, and you just totally disconnect from so much misery It is a wonderful place to be, but it took me years to work on this part of my process because I was always looking for love in all the wrong places. I was always looking for other people to fill me up. I was a people pleaser, beyond people pleaser, obligatory relationships, the whole thing. And it got to the point where I realized none of this is going to make me feel good. None of this is ever going to fill that hole inside of me that feels so much lack. I had to do the internal work, the journaling, the energy releasing, and the connecting with the truth that I am love. And because I am love, whew, I feel it. I feel it a lot. I feel it a lot from my kids. I feel a lot from other people. All right. So when our expectations or agendas are too high, we end up disappointed. It triggers wounds of unworthiness and it gives us a feeling of being unloved. And it often ends up being anger. It turns to anger towards people in your life experience. So if you have children, especially I have a lot of clients that have sons, I feel like sons operate differently, right? Men and women operate differently. They have different love languages. If you don't know what a love language is, basically it's the language that makes you feel loved. It's the things that people do in your experience that make you feel loved. If my husband vacuums the house, I feel pretty good. I gotta say, I love it when he does that. That's a love language, right? If my kids put up a loving post on Facebook, I love that because I love written appreciation. I love that connection between us of them connecting with their inner wisdom and putting that into words, a card, a beautiful card, things like that. That's a love language. Some people, men, operate a little bit differently. Their love language may be just leaving them alone, right? Letting them watch their sports show without giving them a hard time, uh, letting them sleep in. I'm trying to think of like the love language for my husband, and we do so many things back and forth for each other. There's such a balance in our relationship between giving and receiving that I think our love languages really match up really well. And I think one of the greatest things in a really strong, healthy, happy marriage/relationship is when you can be really thoughtful and you can think about someone and their well being and not try to make everything perfect for them, but really take that as an extension of your love, right? Like doing things from the extension of your love, not doing things to get things. I used to see people do this all the time when our kids were growing up, husbands and wives that would like run score and run tally. And especially if a husband traveled, a wife would be like, okay, you owe me. I'm leaving this weekend. You're taking the kids. And it's like there's no teamwork in that. It's very much like divided lines. So for us, the equality that we experience from the give and receive and the love and the balance is beautiful. So if you're not in a relationship, I would definitely write that one down that that's what you want. And if you are in a relationship, I would write that down and I would work on that. I would work on that together. Ask each other, what's your love language? What do you love? How can we come together and make this relationship solid and beautiful and part of engaging us with our well being and inspiring us to be our greatest potential? All right. So when those agendas, if you feel like you matter and you really truly love yourself, when you have healed that unworthiness, when you have healed those wounds within, you really don't need anyone to do anything. And when you don't need anyone to do anything, guess what? They have the freedom to do things for you, not from an obligatory state. They have the freedom to do things from their own inspired actions, from their own love for you. You've opened up the pathway to your heart. You've opened up the pathway to your well being because you're not in lack any longer. Letting people off the hook has probably been one of the biggest components of living a life of joy for me, of living life golden, seriously, because when we don't put people up to these ridiculous expectations, like you should be my friend, you should text me, you should call me, like when we don't have those hard lines, And oftentimes those hard lines are in connection with us over giving, because we're like, well, I did this for you, so you should do this for me. And I'm always the one giving in the relationship and you're not, and that's not fair. When you get into that tit for tat in a relationship, it's not healthy. That's not a healthy relationship. It doesn't allow people to have the freedom that they need to have to show you love. And it doesn't allow you to be in balance with giving and receiving. So if you're over giving, if you have relationships that are energetically draining, if you have relationships where that person is always putting their problems on you, or is always, talking the most, or always asking the most, or always taking, and you're always giving, there's an imbalance. And I would truly, absolutely look within and work on your healing game and journaling what that's about, because that's never going to be a relationship that fulfills you or makes you feel good. There's always going to be lack in that relationship because you haven't tuned into the frequency with that person that you matter and that you're whole and that you're healed. All right. So I'm gonna revisit this. Why do we get mad at people and make it about us when they're upset or miserable? Like, the worst thing anyone could ever say is like, "Why are you being such a bitch?" Like, to me, that is like the ultimate of just destroying whatever could have happened that would have been good in that situation. It never helps when you do that. Whenever you engage with people and say, "What the hell is your problem? Why are you so cranky?" That doesn't help. The best thing you can do, and I love to do this with people, like, it doesn't happen to me, it rarely ever happens to me, but if I like meet somebody like at the grocery store, just along my travels, and they're like in a super bad mood, and you can just tell, like, you can feel that energy, I'll just say, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Is there something I can do to help you right now?" There was a gentleman, I think I shared this before, but it was such a great story and I loved it. There was a gentleman at the meat department at Sprouts. I go to Sprouts, and he was so stressed. And I overheard him like flipping out that he had all this stuff to do, and he was so stressed and he wanted to get out of there. And I had to ask him for something. So I was like, "Oh, hey," I was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I just have a lot to do." And I was like, "All right, well, can I just get this super quick?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then I ended up like cheering him on. I'm like, "I know you can do this. I believe in you." And that was such a cool shift for him. And I ended up, and he was like, "Thank you so much." And I ended up, so I up leveled his vibration, right? I got him out of his stress and I got him into the belief that he could kill it, that he could finish his job on time. I ended up seeing him out in the parking lot after I left, and he was like, "You made my whole day. And I'm out on time and I feel great." And it was such a cool thing that I was able to do that vibrationally just by asking him if he was, just by caring a little bit and not feeling awkward and not feeling embarrassed or feeling guilty that I needed a couple of things of sausage. You know what I mean? So we have the ability to do this for people. How cool is that? To ask them, "Are you okay?" You walk in and your boss is in a terrible mood. Ask him how you can help. Ask him what we can do to shift this for him or her. Like, we don't have to sit there and be in awkward silence. We don't have to sit there and take on people's energy fields. We can up level the field. And this doesn't mean that we're Pollyannas and we annoy the crap out of people. This means we incrementally help them shift by reminding them of who they are, by shining a light back to them, by seeing them for who they really are, for telling them that they have the ability to get out of this, that they have the ability to be calm, they have the ability to connect with peace. I often too also like to just kind of remind people that they can take a deep breath. You can take a deep breath. You can just chill. You can just wring yourself out. You can go outside. You can look at the sun. You can reset. We can reset at any time. So it's a great way to do that. All right. Bad moods never have to be about us. Other people's bad moods never have to be about us unless we feel triggered. All right. So here we go. I went through that already. So compassion and love are the answer. Do something to help people snap out of it. Refusal to sustain abuse. So I had to put this in here because there is, there's a fine line between allowing people to spew their stuff, to get out their feelings, to, engage with what they need to release, and allowing someone to abuse us. If there's name calling going on, if they're really being mean, if they're, just being awful to you, you don't have to sustain that. Part of, knowing and healing and being whole is having boundaries and saying, you know what? I'm going to go because I feel like this conversation is not productive. I'm feeling somewhat attacked. And I think in the best interest of both of us, it would be good if I left. If you engage in a conversation that is filled with contention and it's filled with really negative, low vibrational energy, nothing will get accomplished. In fact, more damage is done in conversations than good when you're in that vibration. Remember, it's not a teaching moment. When everybody's in resistance and they're fighting for their positions, it's a stalemate. And you might as well leave and let the energy reset before you revisit. All right. Protecting your field is really good. So protecting your field has to do with setting your foundation. Before you're going to see someone who maybe is a challenge, protect yourself. Call in angels, call in divine energy, call in the energies of high vibration, get into appreciation, get into love, and then see that person or talk to that person. I also had a client who every week, every Friday, she would talk to her parents, and it was a awful conversation. They often played on her guilt. They often just shared their problems, and it was something that she dreaded, and it actually put a damper on her Friday. And I'm like, me, fun Friday needs to be fun. I'm like, no one should be doing that on a Friday because Friday is for fun. So she pulled away from it, she backed off from it, and she stopped doing it from obligation. And my suggestion was to start tuning and changing the energy with them by cleaning up her internal game and no longer feeling guilty, no longer allowing them to evoke that guilt within her. This is the thing about bullies and about people who work to evoke negative emotion in you. When you clean up your internal game, they don't have power over you. You are giving your power away when you allow those negative emotions to be tuned for you, when you allow them to tune your vibration instead of up leveling theirs. If you don't feel like there's any way, like if you've got a super negative Nelly in your experience and there is just no way to shift them ever, you've tried, it's never worked, sometimes you got to back off. Sometimes you got to ask yourself, is there any joy left in this relationship? And that doesn't say you should break up with everybody in your life. It just means it's time for some self-protection. And it's time to start taking the reins of your own life and deciding what you will allow, what you will entertain, what you will sustain for people that aren't necessarily giving to you or lending to your high vibrational living that you want to live, not increasing your well-being, but actually being a detriment to it. You've really got to connect with that. Is this good for me? Is this relationship just been a life sucker? If it has, you're the one who gets to have a say. There's no such thing as no choice. There's no such thing as bondage. Well, I have no choice. I have to do this. There is always a choice. And the reason why there's always a choice is because of energy and because of the story you wrap around it, and because you can open up to infinite possibilities. You can ask for a solution. You can get out of the problem and ask for a solution. And that's how you end up manifesting. I've watched so many clients manifest out of really bondage filled situations. I've watched them manifest, shift their energy field, and then solutions come because they're no longer so much vibrating with the problem. All right. This isn't about me. So freeing. It's so freeing to let yourself off the hook and decide that it's not about you, and to do the healing work that you need to do to clean up that vibrational place, to clean up your vibrational foundation. It is so freaking freeing. It's amazing. And you can listen to my last two podcasts, give you a lot of good key elements to journaling and the questions to ask to heal yourself. Really good. That was 60 and 61, I think. Oh, I hope it was 61. Yeah, I think so. This is 62. Okay. All right. So start being true to yourself and caring about your own well being. Stop putting other people's well being above your own. And I understand if you're a parent, it's a little challenging. It's definitely challenging because we often make tons of sacrifices for our kids. But if it's at the detriment of yourself and you're in a bunch of resentment, you got to pull back a little bit and you got to start asking yourself, am I doing this from lack? Am I doing this from the lack of love that I've felt in my life? Am I doing this to overcompensate? Because if you're overcompensating to your kids, you're not doing them any favors anyways, because you're not allowing them to get the true nature of relationships. If you're overcompensating, there isn't anyone in their life that's going to overcompensate and overgive to them except their parents. And so it does them a bit of a disservice because it teaches them that's the way relationships work, and you want them to have a healthy of giving and receiving. You really do. That's so important. All right, so here we go. To create a strong foundation of your own well-being every single day, here we go. Meditate. Have a meditation practice, 15 to 20 minutes. I don't care if it's guided, I don't care if it's silent, I don't care if there's music, I don't care if there's a fan. Fans are great, noise machines are great. Just quiet your mind. Create the space between your mind and who you really are. Allow that relationship to be fostered, your relationship with self. Journal your triggers out. Journal what's happening. Journal appreciation. Become really good at asking yourself questions that allow these wounds to be healed and revealed to you. Super important. I love positive aspects with people. If you can make a list of positive aspects, if you did this with your children or your husband or your wife or, all the significant people in your life, if you wrote a positive aspect sheet on them every single day, it literally trains your vibration. It tunes you into a station with them where you look for what you want to see, where you attract what you want to see. It shifts the relationship completely because writing is the strongest form of focus, and it allows you and reminds you to stop being in the problem. It reminds you to start looking at what is good about this person, which then will tune you into a radio station that sounds much better. Watch your stories. So watch the stories you're wrapping around people. Watch the assumptions you're making about people. All of those things are conducting in your experience. And remember, assumptions are not true. You know what they say about assuming? It makes an ass of you and me. So let's stop the assumption game, because assuming that somebody has ill intentions, or assuming that someone is trying to hurt you, or assuming that someone's doing something to piss you off, or the recent word that's been flying around recently is this passive aggressiveness. Like, she just did that and she was so passive aggressive. And it's like, you can't make that assumption because you don't know if that person is truly aware of what they're doing. You don't know if they're conscious. You don't know if they're awake and aware. So you're making an assumption based on what you would do in that experience, or what you would be aware of in that experience. So get rid of all those labels. They do not serve you. And the stories that you wrap around people, especially if they're rooted in the past. Now, if you have a relationship and this person has done things that you cannot trust them anymore, that's okay. It's okay to be protective. It's okay to not give out so much energy that may not actually be appreciated or received correctly. However, if you're going to stay in relationship with this person, you got to work on that stuff. The trust issue, and if they've done things, a lot of times that's about you. Remember, this is your circus. These are your monkeys, and they're reflecting a wound within you that needs to be healed. So if you're going to stay in that relationship, you got to do yourself a real service and start cleaning that stuff up. But it doesn't mean you should be being walked all over. Okay. It doesn't mean we just open up our field and let people, suck the life out of us. This is about self-protection, but also about tuning into frequencies. So not creating from the past, that's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. I'm challenged by this for sure. If my daughter says this to me all the time, she is challenged by human things, like things that we have to do in our lives. Like she's lost her debit card like 9 times, 8 times. Currently does not have a license. She hasn't had her license for like 7 months, and I keep working to get her to just go on DMV and get a new license. Like just go, just do it. But those little things she's had challenges with. So my husband and I tend to tease her a little bit about it, or we'll say things and she'll say, I'm never going to change if you keep putting that on me. And it's so true. She's totally my little guru. It's so true. Okay, understand that people's anger, misery, and emotional triggers are their wounds, and have some compassion. Have some compassion. Don't exchange energy that's crappy. Take the higher road. Decide for yourself that it's not about you. Sprinkle a little love around the universe, because that is what the world really needs. And that's what's going to help people heal. And that's what's going to help people shift out of their moods, which is going to it's the effect that affects other people once they come in contact with them. So you shift someone's vibration and you put them in a little bit better of a mood, they're going to affect the next person that they see, and that person might be in a little bit better of a mood. So it becomes a trickle effect that I absolutely love. All right. Getting yourself right, whole, healed, doing the inner work when it calls, creating space for decision, and releasing your tendency to choose assumptions and misery. That's the crux of the show. It's your world. This is your world. This is your vibration. This is your choice to choose what you will allow in your experience and what you will conduct from it. So every single moment gives us a chance to create new, to be fully present, to not drag the past with us, to not allow our wounds to create. And to be fully whole and healed means a lot of stuff that we're experiencing doesn't have to become our it doesn't have to allow our vibrations to drop. It doesn't have to anymore. You don't have to choose misery. You don't have to choose problems. You don't have to choose a crappy life experience any longer, because you are a powerful creator, because you have universal forces at your side, because you have the ability to decide how you think and feel. And once you go within and you start to like blow out this healing game, it's like the sky isn't even the limit. That's one of my favorite sayings. The sky isn't even the limit. You get to choose, you get to decide, you get to create. So it all begins with you, the foundation of your feelings. If you feel love, if you feel appreciation, if you feel abundance, if you feel joy, you are in the highest vibrational realms. If you find yourself in a low mood, if you find yourself in a low vibration, reset, meditate, take a nap, journal some appreciation, journal out some crappy feelings, take a hold of your vibrational alignment and bring yourself back. Listen to this show. It will help you remember who you are. Deep breathing. I've been working with a naturopath, and he said, one of the greatest things for our whole system is deep breathing. So you take a deep breath and you hold it for a second, and then you blow it out forcefully, because we take these very shallow breaths, which sends messages to our whole body to download chemicals and hormones of stress. So once we start to get in tune with our breath, and we realize, he's like, every hour you should do this. And I've been doing pretty good today, maybe not so much. I've had a lot of energy in my chest, which apparently is connected to the eclipse. There's been a lot of like palpitations, which I was labeling as anxiety because of all the things that I've just worked through. And it's really just energy. And once I put it in that context, it kind of has gone away. So I haven't been as good at breathing, because the palpitations were reminding me that I needed to breathe. So you can set an alarm on your phone. Just take a deep breath and blow it out. And he said to do this 3 to 5 times an hour. And what does that do? That clears the freaking field. It gets you out of your monkey mind. It puts you in your body and allows you to have a little bit more control over your conduction because you're not just in this monkey mind of habitual thought and programming. Cool. All right, cool. All right, that's my show for today. I love you all. I am so excited about what's happening with the podcast, and I have a lot of fun and exciting things that are coming up soon. I have changed the Live Life Golden group to a private group. I did that because we want to find out where people are finding the group from. We have like 560 people in there, which is so cool. But I'd like to get some more engagement in there. And so now, if you invite people, there's like 3 questions they have to ask, and they actually could get a free PDF copy of Quantum Speak if they put their email in. So there you go. All right. So I love you all. Love this conversation. And I think there's going to be more conversations that have to do with this because there's so much to say. All right. Peace, people. Peace. It's up to you. The peace is up to you. Peace out. Love ya.